Winter of 1883, wind screamed through the canyon gaps like wounded cattle. I was alone, had been alone for 12 years, since Martha bled out trying to give me a son who never drew breath. My ranch was clean, functional, empty. Then I heard it, a baby crying where no baby should be. Through the snow came a girl, maybe 9 years old, clothes too thin, dragging a bundle wrapped in Shoshone blanket. She fell 3 times, kept coming. When she reached my gate, she looked up with one clear eye and one clouded, and whispered 6 words that stopped my heart. Please take my brother, not me. I carried them both inside, got a fire going, heated milk, wrapped the baby, Thomas, in blankets. His lips were blue, pneumonia rattle in his chest. That's when the door pounded, heavy, demanding. The man on the other side wasn't their kin, he was their killer. And he had the law on his side. My name's Lucas Calloway. Folks call me Luke. That January morning started like any other. 20 below, wind sharp enough to draw blood, cattle needing feed before the sun broke pale over the Absaroka range. I was mending fence when I heard it. Baby's cry, thin and desperate, cutting through the howl of wind. Impossible. Nearest neighbor was 10 miles down the valley, and nobody traveled in weather like this unless they were running from something worse than cold. I grabbed my rifle, stepped into blue darkness. Snow swirled thick as wool. I could barely see 10 feet. Then, movement, small figure, staggering, falling, getting back up. Girl, 8, maybe 9, wearing a dress too light for autumn, let alone January. She clutched something to her chest, bundle wrapped in a blanket with Shoshone bead patterns. The bundle was moving, crying. She fell again, disappeared into a drift. Didn't get up, I ran, boots punching through snow crust, cold burning my lungs. Reached her just as she tried to rise. Her face was gray, lips blue, one eye clear as creek water, the other scarred, clouded over. Old injury. She looked up at me, tried to speak, couldn't, too cold. I scooped them both up, light as kindling, ran for the cabin. Inside the fire was still burning from breakfast. I laid her on the hearthrug, unwrapped the baby. Boy, maybe 6 months. His breathing was wrong, wet, rattling. I'd heard that sound before, in my own son's chest the night he died. "The baby," she gasped through chattering teeth. "Is he alive?" "Barely." I rubbed his chest, trying to warm him. "What are you doing out in a blizzard?" She didn't answer, just watched me with that one good eye, sizing me up, deciding if I was safe. I got milk heating, not too hot, just warm. Wrapped the baby tighter, held him close to the fire. The girl stayed where I'd put her, shaking so hard I thought she'd break apart. "You got a name?" I asked. "Clara Morrison, sir," voice like gravel. "That's Thomas, my brother. Where's your folks, Clara Morrison?" "Dead, sir. Mama died having Thomas. Papa died before that. Logging accident." I knew the name Morrison. James Morrison had run the biggest logging operation in 3 counties. Good man, from what I'd heard. Died last spring when his wagon went over a cliff. Brake failure. "Then who's taking care of you?" Her whole body went stiff. Fear flooded that clear eye, pure animal terror. "Our uncle," she whispered. "Uncle Oswin. He's our guardian now." "So why aren't you with him?" She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at the baby in my arms. Then she said the 6 words that changed everything. "Please take my brother, not me." I stared at her. "What?" "Thomas, sir. Can you keep Thomas?" "You don't have to keep me. Her voice cracked. "I'm damaged goods. One eye don't work. I ain't strong like other girls. But Thomas is perfect. He just needs milk and warmth and someone to care for him. Please, sir. You don't have to take me. Just him." Before I could answer, fists pounded on my door. Aggressive. Demanding. A man's voice cut through the wind. "Open up. I know they're in there." Clara's breath stopped. The baby, warmer now, started crying again. The pounding came harder. "I said open up, Calloway." I grabbed my rifle, cracked the door. Man stood there in an expensive wool coat, polished boots, face red from cold and anger. Gold watch chain glinted at his vest. Behind him, 2 hired men on horses, both armed. "Mr. Calloway." He didn't wait for invitation, just pushed past me into the cabin. "I'm Raymond Pritchard, land agent for this territory." His eyes found Clara. "There you are." She pressed herself against the wall. "These children are wards of the territory," Pritchard continued. "Legal guardianship papers signed by Judge Morrison himself. They ran away this morning, been tracking them for 6 hours. He pulled documents from inside his coat, unfolded them, official seals, signatures, notary stamps. I read slowly. Legal language twisted like barbed wire, but the meaning was clear. Raymond Pritchard, sole guardian. Authority to place children as he saw fit. But something was wrong. The ink, too dark, too fresh. Winter air should have faded it by now. And the smell, cologne, cedar and musk, clung to the papers. Same smell coming off Pritchard in waves. Says here their father died owing you money, I said. $2,000. Equipment loan for his logging operation. Pritchard's smile was thin. Tragic situation. James was a good man, but business is business. When he defaulted, the debt passed to his estate, which I manage, as guardian. Convenient. Legal. He reached for Clara. Come along, girl. You've caused enough trouble. She shrank back. Thomas wailed. Hold on. I stepped between them. Baby's got pneumonia, needs medicine, warmth. Moving him now could kill him. Pritchard's eyes narrowed. Then I'll take the girl. She's the troublemaker anyway. Baby can stay till morning. No! Clara's voice cracked. You can't separate us, please. Please, Pritchard laughed. You had your chance to behave. Should have thought about consequences before you. They're staying here. My voice came out flat, hard. Both of them, till the baby's well. Silence. Outside, wind howled. Inside, fire crackled. Pritchard's face went cold. You're interfering with legal guardianship, Mr. Calloway. That's a criminal offense. Storm's too dangerous. Children stay put till weather breaks. The law says, law can wait till the snow stops. We stared at each other. His hired men shifted in their saddles outside. My rifle leaned against the wall, 5 feet away. Finally, Pritchard stepped back. Fine, till the storm breaks. But come first light, I'm bringing Marshal Reeves, and when I do, you'll hand them over, or you'll answer for obstruction. He headed for the door, paused. Unless, of course, you can post bond for their care. Say, $500? Prove you're a suitable guardian? $500. Might as well ask for the moon. Didn't think so. Pritchard tipped his hat. First light, Mr. Calloway. Have them ready. He left. The cabin filled with his cologne, thick, cloying. I picked up the guardianship papers he'd left on the table. Same smell, fresh ink, too fresh. Clara stood frozen by the fire. He's going to take us back. Maybe. I looked at the baby in my arms, breathing easier now, color returning. Maybe not. You don't understand. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Uncle Oswin, that watch chain he's wearing, that was Papa's. Mama gave it to him on their wedding day. She met my eyes. Papa never took it off. Never. Not even in the bath. My blood went cold. I'm saying Papa wore that watch when his wagon went over the cliff. Clara's hands were shaking. And 3 days later, Uncle Oswin was wearing it at the funeral. Said he'd found it in Papa's belongings. Said it was his now, as guardian. Outside, horses rode away. Wind covered their tracks fast. I looked at the papers again. At the fresh ink, the cologne, the watch chain. And I knew, certain as sunrise, that every word Raymond Pritchard had spoken was a lie. Morning came gray and bitter. Storm had blown itself out, leaving 3 feet of fresh snow and a sky the color of old iron. I fed the children, hot oats, milk for Thomas, and rode to town. Frost Ridge sat at the base of the mountains, 20 buildings clustered around a muddy main street. This time of year, everything was frozen solid. Horses' hooves rang on the packed snow like hammer on anvil. I tied up outside Esther Hawkins' general store. She was behind the counter, gray braid coiled tight, eyes sharp as broken glass. Woman had run that store for 30 years, knew every piece of gossip in 3 counties. Esther, need to ask about Raymond Pritchard. Her hand froze on the tin she was stacking. She glanced at the door. Close it. I did. Pritchard owns half the loans in this territory, she said quietly. Bank manager's his cousin. Land office, that's his job. Judge Morrison won't circuit through till May. She leaned across the counter, voice dropping. You're fighting a man who is the law here, Luke. He's got forged papers. I'm sure of it. Proof? She shook her head. Without proof, you're just a widower making accusations against a respected businessman, and we both know how that ends. The children will be taken, unless you can prove he's lying, and even then, she trailed off. I gripped the counter edge, wood grain rough under my palms. There's got to be something. Esther was quiet a moment, then, 3 weeks ago, a traveling merchant came through, sold specialty goods, rare inks, quality papers, that sort. Pritchard bought archival-grade ink, expensive stuff. I remember because he paid cash and he never pays cash. My pulse quickened. Why would a land agent need expensive ink? Exactly. She pulled a receipt from under the counter. Kept a copy. Merchant's business is my business. I take a small cut for referrals. She slid it across. January 10th. Archival ink guaranteed not to fade. The kind used for official documents. I stared at the receipt. The guardianship papers were dated January 15th. 5 days later. Can I keep this? You can, but Luke. Her voice went soft. Pritchard's dangerous. He's ruined men for less than what you're doing. Be careful. I pocketed the receipt. Where's the church? End of the street. But Reverend Holt's not going to... I know. Still have to try. Outside, the air smelled like wood smoke and snow. My boots crunched on the frozen street. Behind me, I heard Esther's door open. She called out, Luke, if you need supplies, I'll extend credit. Don't care what Pritchard says. I turned. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed against the cold. Thank you, I said. She nodded. Lost my grandbabies to scarlet fever 5 years back. I see that girl's face. Her voice caught. Some things are worth the risk. The church was small, whitewashed wood, steeple pointing at gray sky. Inside, Reverend Samuel Holt sat in the front pew, 70 years old if he was a day, shoulders bent under the weight of too many winters. Reverend, need to talk about sanctuary. He looked up. Luke Calloway, heard you took in some strays. 2 children, orphans, their guardians trying to take them back. I think he killed their father. Holt's face went pale. That's a serious accusation. I know, but the papers are forged, the timeline's wrong, and he's wearing their dead father's watch. I sat beside him. Can the church claim sanctuary? Keep them safe? Long silence. Outside, a crow cawed. The sound echoed in the empty sanctuary. Pritchard visited me yesterday, Holt said finally. Knew you'd come here. Made it very clear, any interference from the church means foreclosure. We owe him $300 on repairs from last year's roof damage. He met my eyes. I have a congregation to think about, Luke. Families who depend on this building. So you're saying no? I'm saying... He looked at the cross above the altar. Some battles aren't mine to fight. I'm sorry. I stood, walked to the door. Hand on the latch. I stopped. Reverend, when you stand before God, you think he's going to care about that roof? I left before he could answer. I needed supplies. Rode back to the store. Esther would extend credit, at least. But when I rounded the corner onto Main Street, I saw them. Pritchard stood on the store porch, 3 townspeople watching from across the street, deliberate, public. My gut twisted. This wasn't coincidence. I dismounted, tied my horse, walked up the steps. Mr. Calloway, Pritchard's voice carried, meant to. Still harboring those children? They're safe. That's what matters. Safe? He laughed, sharp, cruel. A man your age, Calloway, 58 years old, alone with a 9-year-old girl. He let it hang. Folks notice these things. Heat crawled up my neck. Across the street, the townspeople shifted, whispered. Esther appeared in the doorway, silent witness, face like stone. I'm their legal guardian, Pritchard continued, court appointed. You're nobody, just a widower with a failing ranch and ideas above his station. He unfolded the papers. The father, James Morrison, died owing me $2,000. Equipment loan, signed and notarized. When he couldn't pay, I extended more credit, out of kindness. His smile was a blade. Now the debt passes to his estate, which I manage. My fists clenched. Convenient. Legal. He pocketed the papers. You've got till sundown to return what isn't yours. After that, I involve the marshal. He descended the steps, gold watch chain swinging. And Mr. Calloway? Next time you accuse me of impropriety, make sure you can prove it. Slander's a serious offense in territorial court. He walked away, boots confident on packed snow. The townspeople dispersed, quick, avoiding my eyes. I stood there, shame burning my face. Public humiliation, calculated, precise. Pritchard knew exactly what he was doing. Plant doubt, make people question my motives. Esther touched my arm. Ignore them. Hard to ignore when they're right to wonder. Man my age, alone with a child. Stop. Her voice was iron. You're protecting her. They're cowards for believing his poison. Inside the store, Clara sat on a flour sack, holding Thomas. She'd heard every word. I could see it in her face. Clara. Papa never borrowed money. Her voice was small but steady. Never. Mama kept the books. She wrote it in her ledger. No man owns us but God. She was proud of that. Said debt was a trap. Tears tracked down her cheeks. That paper Uncle Oswin has? It's a lie. You sure? Mama let me help with the books. Taught me numbers. Papa paid cash for everything. Equipment, wages, supplies. He said owing money meant owing your soul. She looked up at me. That debt doesn't exist. Uncle Oswin made it up. I knelt beside her. Clara, if I fight this, it's going to get ugly. Pritchard's powerful. He owns half this town. Are you sure? Absolutely sure. Your father never borrowed from him. She met my eyes, one clear, one clouded. I'm sure. Behind us, Esther pulled out her ledger. Then we need to prove it, and we've got till sundown. Outside, wind picked up, blowing snow devils down the street. The watch chain flashed in my memory. Gold, swinging, damning. I stood. Esther, how do I find Jake Redmond? Blacksmith, north edge of town. Why? Because if Pritchard's forging documents, I need someone who knows what to look for. Clara grabbed my hand. Mr. Calloway, Luke, what if he takes us tonight, before you can prove anything? I looked at her, 9 years old, half blind, protecting a baby with everything she had. Then he'll have to go through me, I said. But even as I said it, I knew. Pritchard had the law, the money, the power, and I had nothing but a receipt for ink and a little girl's word. The blacksmith's forge sat at the north edge of town, smoke rising black against gray sky. I could hear it before I saw it. Rhythmic hammer strikes, metal on metal, older than words. Jake Redmond was a big man, 50 maybe, shoulders like an ox, hands scarred from decades of hot iron. He didn't look up when I entered, just kept hammering, sparks flying, the smell of coal and burnt metal thick in the air. Jake Redmond? Who's asking? Still hammering. Luke Calloway. Esther sent me. The hammer stopped. He plunged the horseshoe into water, hiss and steam, finally looked at me. You're the one took in Morrison's kids. I am. Pritchard's not happy about that. He set the horseshoe aside, wiped his hands. What do you want? Esther says you might know about document forgery. His face went hard. What makes her think that? Because she's known you 30 years, and she trusts you. Long silence. The forge crackled. Outside, a horse whinnied. Jake pulled off his leather apron. Come here. He led me to the back of the shop, pulled out a wooden box from under the workbench. Inside, papers, yellowed with age. He spread them on the bench. Winter of 1876, he said quietly. Territorial office wanted Shoshone land. Good timber, water rights. Tribe wouldn't sell. So the office hired men like me to make it look legal. He pointed at signatures, forged Shoshone names, witnesses who didn't exist, co-signers who never touched a pen. I studied the documents. How'd you do it? Archival ink, expensive stuff that doesn't fade, makes new documents look old, and timing, always winter when judges can't circuit through. By the time anyone could verify land was already sold, logged, settled. He looked at me. I was young, needed money, told myself it was just business. Why tell me this? Because I got grandkids now. His voice roughened. And I don't want them growing up in a world where men like Pritchard win. He gestured at the papers. This is the pattern. Pritchard's using it. I'd bet my forge on it. I pulled out Esther's receipt. January 10th. He bought archival ink. Jake's jaw tightened. And when are his papers dated? January 15th. 5 days later, just enough time to forge signatures, let them dry, make them look official. He nodded slowly. Same pattern, same timing, same ink. How do I prove it? You need the original documents, real ones. Compare signatures, check dates, analyze the ink. He paused. But if Pritchard's smart, and he is, he's already destroyed any originals. My chest went tight. So there's no proof. I didn't say that. Jake walked back to the forge. There's always proof, just have to know where to look. He picked up his hammer. Luke Calloway, you planning to fight this man? Don't see another choice. Then you need to understand. He'll destroy you, your reputation, your ranch, everything. Territorial law gives guardians absolute authority. You're fighting the system itself. I know. He studied me. Why? You barely know these kids. I thought about Clara's whisper, please take my brother, not me. About Thomas's blue lips, about the watch chain swinging. Because somebody should, I said. Jake was quiet a moment, then he extended his hand. Whatever you need. I'm in. Why? Because I was that man once. The one who looked away. Let evil happen because it was profitable. He gripped my hand, hard. I won't be that man again. By the time I got back to the ranch, Marshal Reeves was there. Sitting his horse, waiting. Weathered face, 50-some years old, badge pinned to his coat. Clara stood in the doorway, holding Thomas, scared but defiant. Marshal, I dismounted. Mr. Calloway, got a complaint filed by Raymond Pritchard, says you're refusing to return territorial wards. He pulled out papers. Now, I know you, Luke. You're not a troublemaker, so I'm giving you a chance to explain before this gets official. I told him everything. The forged papers, the fresh ink, the stolen watch, Claire's testimony about her father's debt-free policy. Reeves listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. You got proof? He finally asked. Esther's receipt for the ink, Jake Redmond's testimony about historical fraud patterns, and this. I pulled out a piece of paper, Claire's drawing of her father, wearing the watch chain. She'd drawn it that morning, unprompted. Girl's 9 years old, doesn't lie about her papa's belongings. Reeves studied the drawing. The detail was remarkable. Every link of the chain, the watch fob, even the initials engraved on the case. Pritchard's wearing that watch now, I said. Claims he found it in Morrison's belongings after the death, but Clara says her father never took it off, not even in the bath. The marshal's face was stone. That's a serious accusation. I know. He looked at Clara in the doorway, at Thomas in her arms, then at me. All right, I'll grant you temporary custody till Judge Morrison circuits through in May. That's, he calculated. 3 months. Pritchard can appeal, but he'll need new documentation, proper hearings. He signed a paper, handed it over. This protects you, legally. Use the time to build your case. Relief hit me like a hammer. Thank you, Marshal. Don't thank me yet. His voice dropped. Pritchard's got connections, money, influence. This paper buys you time, but it doesn't change the power balance. He'll fight this. Hard. I know. And Luke? Reeves looked grim. If you're wrong, if those papers are legitimate, you'll face charges. Obstruction, kidnapping, maybe worse. I'm not wrong, he nodded, mounted his horse. Good luck. You're going to need it. As he rode away, Clara came out, set Thomas down in his basket, threw her arms around my waist. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I held her, small and fierce and brave. We're not out of the woods yet, I said. I know. She looked up. But we're together. That's what matters. Inside, the fire crackled. Thomas cooed. For a moment, just a moment, it felt like home. Then I heard horses, multiple horses, coming fast. I grabbed my rifle, pushed Clara inside. Root cellar. Now. But now, she ran. I stepped onto the porch. 5 riders topped the ridge. Pritchard in the lead, the others, hired guns, hard men with dead eyes. They stopped 50 yards out, close enough to talk, too far for rifle accuracy in this light. Pritchard sat his horse, gold watch chain glinting in the gray afternoon. You made a mistake, Calloway, he called. That paper from Reeves? It's just paper. I own this town, the bank, the land office, half the mortgages. You think a traveling marshal's signature protects you? It's legal. Legal? He laughed. I'll bury you by April, foreclose on your ranch, ruin your name. And when I do, those children will be exactly where they belong, far from here, where no one asks questions. The hired guns shifted, hands near weapons. You're threatening me, Pritchard? I'm warning you, he turned his horse. You've got till spring to pay what you owe. Oh, didn't I mention? Check the records. Turns out you co-signed James Morrison's equipment loan, $2,000, due in full by April 15th. My blood went cold. That's a lie. Is it? He smiled. Check your deed, Calloway. Might find some interesting amendments. They rode off, hoofbeats fading into the wind. I stood frozen. Co-signed? I'd never met James Morrison, never signed anything, unless... I ran inside, dug out the tin box from under the hearthstone, the one where I kept my ranch deed, Martha's wedding ring, my discharge papers from the war. The deed was there. But there was an extra page. Amendment dated January 15th, 1883. Lucas Calloway agrees to serve as co-signatory on equipment loan issued to James Morrison, deceased, in the amount of $2,000. In event of default, property described herein serves as collateral. My signature, notarized, witnessed, except I'd never signed it. Pritchard hadn't just forged the children's guardianship papers. He'd forged mine, too. February came, with thaw-freeze cycles that turned everything to mud and ice. Mornings, the ground was hard as iron. By afternoon, it sucked at your boots like quicksand. I woke to wrong silence, the kind that makes your gut clench. Cattle should have been lowing for feed. Instead, nothing. I grabbed my rifle, pulled on boots. Outside, frost covered everything, my breath clouded white. The cattle pen was empty, fence cut, clean cuts, wire snips, not wear. 3 strands severed, posts still standing. Professional work. 15 heads scattered across the valley. Some had wandered onto Ed Granger's land, my neighbor 5 miles south. It'd take days to round them up. I started walking the fence line, found fresh tracks, boot prints, horse prints. 2 men, maybe 3. They'd worked methodical. Cut the fence in 4 places, then driven the cattle out. Systematic. Sabotage. By noon, I'd found 10 head. Clara helped, small hands surprisingly good with cattle. She didn't complain, even when mud soaked through her boots. "Why is he doing this?" she asked. "Because legal didn't work, so now he's trying to break me other ways." We worked till dusk. Got 12 head back in the pen, 3 still missing. Ed Granger rode over at sunset, decent man, weathered face, honest eyes. "Found 3 of your cattle on my land, Luke. Brought 'em back." He dismounted. "But I can't make a habit of this. Got my own herd to manage." "I know. I appreciate it. Heard you're having trouble with Pritchard." He lowered his voice. "Man's dangerous. Foreclosed on the Hendersons last year. They had to move to Denver, start over with nothing. I'm not the Hendersons. No, you're worse off. They just owed money. You're fighting the whole system." He gripped my shoulder. "Be careful, Luke." After he left, I mended fence by lantern light. Clara held the light steady while I twisted wire. Her one good eye watched every movement. "You're teaching me," she said. "Teaching you what?" "How to survive, in case you're not here." Her voice was matter-of-fact. Too matter-of-fact for a 9-year-old. "I'm not going anywhere." Mama said that too. Then she died. She adjusted the lantern. "I need to know how to do everything. Feed cattle, mend fence, heat milk for Thomas, all of it." My throat tightened. "All right, I'll teach you." We finished the fence as the moon rose. Inside, Thomas was crying. Clara ran to him, scooped him up, started singing, soft lullaby in a language I didn't know, Shoshone maybe, something her mother taught her. The baby quieted. She rocked him, voice steady. I realized then she'd been mothering this child for months, since her real mother died, 9 years old, doing a woman's work, keeping a baby alive through grief and terror. 2 days later, Jake rode up, dismounted heavy. "Found something." He held up wire cutters. "Near your south fence line, buried under snow, but the melt exposed them." I took them. "Steel. Good quality." And stamped on the handle. "Territorial Land Office. Property Survey Division." My jaw clenched. "Pritchard's got access to these." "He does. Can't prove he ordered it, but we know." Jake's face was grim. "How much hay you got left?" "Month. Maybe 6 weeks if I ration." "He's starving you out. That's the play. Drain your resources, make you desperate. By spring, you'll be broke and desperate." He paused. "How much money you got saved?" $100. Maybe. Deed says you owe $2,000 by April 15th. "I know." We stood there in the cold. Wind cut through my coat. Cattle shifted in the pen, nervous. "There's got to be a way," I said. "There is. Prove the forgery before foreclosure." Jake handed back the wire cutters. "But that's 58 days away, and Judge Morrison won't be here till May." The math was brutal. Foreclosure in 58 days, judge in 73, 15 days short. "Then I need another way," I said. A week later, Esther pulled me aside at the store. "Luke, when's the last time you looked at your deed?" "Don't know. 5 years?" "Check it." Her voice was urgent. Jake mentioned winter amendments. If Pritchard forged the guardianship papers, what's stopping him from— I was already moving, rode home fast. Claire was teaching Thomas to clap. He'd just figured it out, was delighted by the sound. She looked up, saw my face. "What's wrong?" "Stay here." I dug out the tin box, hands shaking, opened it. The deed was there, original, signed when Martha and I bought this land 23 years ago. But underneath it, there was another page. Crisp, new, my stomach dropped. Amendment to Property Deed, January 15th, 1883. Lucas Calloway agrees to serve as co-signatory on equipment loan issued to James Morrison, deceased, in the amount of $2,000. In event of default, property described herein serves as collateral. Payment due in full no later than April 15, 1883. My signature at the bottom. Notarized by Thomas Welch, County Clerk. Witnessed by two names I didn't recognize. Except, I'd never signed this. Never met James Morrison. Never co-signed anything. The signature looked perfect. Every loop, every angle. My hand, but not my hand. I sat on the floor. Couldn't breathe. The cabin spun. 23 years. Built this ranch from nothing. Cleared the land. Raised the buildings. Survived Martha's death. Survived my son's death. Survived 12 winters alone. And in 5 minutes, with a pen and archival ink, Pritchard had stolen it all. The door opened. Clara came in, Thomas on her hip. "Luke?" Her voice was small. "What happened?" I couldn't speak, just handed her the paper. She read it slowly, lips moving, sounding out the legal words. Her face went pale. "He forged your name." "Yes." "How much do you owe?" $2,000. "How much do you have?" 100. Her one good eye filled with tears. "When's it due?" "April 15th. She did the math in her head. That's 2 months. 58 days. "And the judge?" "May 3rd. 15 days after foreclosure." She sank down beside me, set Thomas on the floor. He crawled toward the fire, babbling. We sat there in silence, the weight of it crushing. Finally, Clara whispered, "What do we do?" Before I could answer, hoofbeats outside, heavy, deliberate. I grabbed my rifle, looked through the window. Pritchard, alone this time, sitting his horse like a king surveying conquered territory. I opened the door, didn't step out. "Mr. Calloway?" His voice was silk. "Checked the records today. Noticed you're a bit behind on your loan payment." "I never signed that loan." "Didn't you?" He pulled papers from his coat. "County clerk says otherwise. 2 witnesses, all legal and proper." He smiled. "Of course, if you can pay the $2,000 by April 15th, this all goes away. Can you do that?" "You know I can't." "Pity." He turned his horse. "Oh, one more thing. The children can stay with you, for now. Seems cruel to separate them from you before foreclosure. They'll need somewhere to go afterward, of course. Lucky for them, I'm still their legal guardian." His smile widened. "See you in April, Mr. Calloway, if you're still here." He rode off. I stood in the doorway, rifle in shaking hands. Behind me, Clara was crying. Silent, hopeless tears. Thomas crawled over, grabbed my boot, looked up at me with Morrison's blue eyes. "Pa?" he said. First word, clear as a bell. "Pa?" Clara gasped. "He said, he called you." I picked him up, held him close. His small heart beat against my chest. "I know, son," I whispered. "I know." Outside, wind howled, the sound of winter that wouldn't end, of spring that might never come. Pritchard had forged us both into bankruptcy, tied the children's fate to mine. If I lost the ranch, he got them back, and this time, no marshal's paper would stop him. I had 58 days to prove a forgery I couldn't prove, or lose everything I'd ever loved, again. March came with mud and cold rain. Everything smelled like thaw, wet earth, manure, rotting hay, the kind of smell that promises spring but delivers more winter. I took Clara out to the fence line at dawn. She wore Martha's old coat, sleeves rolled 3 times, hem dragging in the mud. "You need to learn this," I said, "case I'm not around." Her jaw set. "You're not leaving." Didn't say I was, but a woman needs to know how to mend things. World breaks fences every day. I showed her. Tension, twist, loop, crimp. Her hands were small, clumsy at first. Wire bit into her fingers. She didn't quit. "Tighter," I said. "Cattle lean on fence. It's got to hold." She tried again. Better. 3rd time. Perfect. Good. We moved to the cattle pen. The pregnant cow stood in the corner, belly swollen, close to calving. "That's Mercy," Clara said. "Didn't name her." "I just did." She reached through the fence, stroked the cow's nose. "Mama used to say Mercy's what you give when you got nothing left to give. This cow's still giving milk when she's about to have a baby. That's Mercy." My chest tightened. "Your mama was a wise woman." "She was." Clara's voice went soft. Before she got too sick to talk, she told me, "Clara, if something happens to me, you protect Thomas. Don't let them split you up." I promised. She looked at me, one clear eye shining. I'm keeping that promise. I knelt in the mud. You already did. You walked through a blizzard carrying him. You're the bravest person I know. She hugged me then. Quick, fierce. First time she'd initiated touch since that first night. Will Mercy be okay? She asked. When she calves? Should be, but birth's dangerous, for cows and people both. I know. Her voice was flat. I watched Mama die having Thomas. Took 3 days. She screamed so much she couldn't scream anymore. Then she just stopped. I had no words for that. Just pulled her close. We worked till noon. She learned to check hooves for stones, how to spot early sickness, where to find the good grazing even in winter. Every lesson she absorbed like soil drinking rain. That night, sitting by the fire, she asked, Luke, if we lose the ranch, where will we go? Thomas was asleep in her lap. The firelight made shadows dance on the walls. Don't know yet, I admitted, but we'll figure it out, together. Could we go west? Montana, maybe? Start over? Maybe. I could work. I'm strong. I can clean, cook, take care of Thomas. Clara, I stopped her. You're 9 years old. You shouldn't have to work like a grown woman. I already do. No self-pity in her voice, just fact. Have been since Mama died. Someone's got to. Not anymore. You're a child. You're supposed to play, learn, be safe. She looked at me for a long moment. Nobody's safe. Not really. Mama wasn't safe. Papa wasn't safe. We're not safe. She touched Thomas's head. But we're together. That's better than safe. I had no answer for that kind of wisdom. Later, after she'd gone to bed, I sat up planning. 50 days till foreclosure. No money, no proof that would hold in court. Pritchard owned the bank, the land office, half the town, but I had Esther's receipt, Jake's testimony, Claire's drawing, the wire cutters, small pieces of a puzzle I couldn't quite see. There had to be a way. There had to be. They met after dark at Jake's forge. Luke, Jake, Esther, Reverend Holt, illicit counsel. The forge was banked but still warm. Smell of coal and metal thick in the air. Judge won't arrive till May 3rd, Luke said. Foreclosures April 15th, 18 days short. Esther set her ledger on the anvil. I've tracked every transaction Pritchard's made through my store. He bought that archival ink January 10th. Luke's deed amendment is dated January 15th. Claire's guardianship papers are the same date. Timeline matches. Still not proof he used that ink on those specific documents, Jake said. Any lawyer would tear that apart. Then we need more. Luke looked at each of them. There's got to be something we're missing. Reverend Holt spoke quietly. There's an old tradition. Before territorial courts, frontier communities used sacred oaths. The blacksmith's forge, fire, and iron was considered holy ground. A man would swear truth before God and community. If he lied, he paused. Spiritual consequences, social consequences. Everyone knew. Jake looked up. Anvil blessing. What's that? Luke asked. My grandfather's tradition. Old country, Wales. Man places his hand near a heated anvil, not touching, just close enough to feel God's heat, and swears his truth. The community watches. If he flinches, if he refuses, if his story changes. Jake's eyes gleamed. Everyone knows. It's not legal testimony, but it's binding in a way law isn't. You think Pritchard would agree to it? Esther asked. If we frame it right, public ceremony, whole town invited, chance for him to clear his name, his ego won't let him refuse. Jake nodded slowly. And if he does refuse, that tells its own story. Luke considered. We'd need witnesses, lots of them. I can spread word through the congregation, Reverend said. Frame it as community reconciliation, healing. Pritchard won't see the trap till he's in it. Esther leaned forward. And I'll make sure that traveling merchant, the one who sold him the ink, is in town that day. Fresh testimony about the purchase. When? Luke asked. Jake checked his calendar. April 10th, 5 days before foreclosure. Gives us time to prepare, but not so much time Pritchard can plan a countermove. And if it works, Luke's voice was careful. If we prove forgery in front of the whole town, what then? Then the court has to listen, Reverend said. Might not be legal evidence, but it's community testimony. Judge Morrison respects frontier tradition. He'll at least investigate. And if it doesn't work? Silence. The forge ticked as it cooled. Finally, Jake said, "Then you lose everything, and Pritchard wins." Luke looked at the anvil, dark iron, scarred from decades of use. Sacred ground, where truth was forged and lies were broken. "All right," he said. "We hold an anvil blessing. April 10th, dawn." He met Jake's eyes. "You'll officiate?" "I will." Jake's voice was steady. "And this time, I'm on the right side." Esther pulled something from her apron pocket. Small glass bottle, stopped with cork. "One more thing." She set it on the anvil. "Pritchard's cologne, cedar and musk, custom blend from that merchant. I kept a sample when he bought it." Luke picked it up, uncorked it. The smell filled the forge, exact match to the papers. "You kept this?" he asked. "Kept samples of everything he bought for 3 years. Call it insurance." She smiled grimly. "Scent transfers to paper. If we can show his cologne on those forged documents, that's physical evidence." Luke stared at the bottle, then at his friends, these people risking everything to stand with him. "Thank you," he said, "all of you." "Don't thank us yet," Esther replied. "We haven't won. We've just found a way to fight." Outside, rain pattered on the roof, steady, relentless, the sound of March turning toward April, toward the day when everything would be decided, by fire, by iron, by truth, or by the failure of all three. Late March, the mud was winning. Luke felt it the moment he walked into Esther's store, conversations stopping mid-sentence, eyes sliding away. The air smelled like lamp oil and tobacco and something else. Fear. He needed flour, salt, coffee. Basics. Esther had been extending credit, but even that was running thin. 2 women stood by the fabric bolts. Margaret and Susan, town gossips married to ranchers who owed Pritchard money. Their voices were low, but meant to carry. Alone with that girl, at his age, ain't natural. Pritchard says there's no proof she's even who she claims. Could be anyone. Could have found her anywhere. And that baby keeps her dependent, doesn't it? Convenient. Luke's hands clenched on the counter edge. Wood grain bit into his palms. Esther appeared from the back. Her face could have stripped paint. "Margaret. Susan." Her voice was ice. "Either buy something or leave." They left, skirts rustling with righteous indignation. "Don't listen to them," Esther said. "Town's turning." Luke's voice was flat. "He's poisoning the well." "Some wells were already poisoned. He's just stirring the mud." She slid flour and coffee across the counter. "On account. Don't argue." Outside, Clara waited with Thomas. She'd been listening. Luke could see it in her face, that careful blankness children learn when adults are cruel. A man passed. Ed Granger, the neighbor who'd returned Luke's cattle. He nodded, but didn't stop, didn't speak. Another rancher crossed the street to avoid them. Then Henry Bosch walked by, spit in the dirt near Clara's feet. "Orphan bait," he muttered. Clara didn't flinch, but her hand found Luke's, gripped out tight. From the alley, another voice. "Young man drunk already at noon. That girl probably ain't even his. Probably found her God knows where." Clara's breath caught. She thrust Thomas into Luke's arms and ran. "Clara!" Luke chased. Found her behind the church, pressed against the white clapboard, sobbing. "I'm sorry." The words ripped out of her. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm making it worse. If I wasn't here, they wouldn't—" "Stop." Luke knelt, mud soaked through his pants. "You didn't make this. Pritchard did, and everyone who believes his lies, that's on them, not you." "But what if they're right?" Her voice broke. "What if I'm just trouble? What if you'd be better off without—" "Listen to me." He gripped her shoulders. "You're family. That's what you are. And family doesn't leave because people talk. Family stays." She collapsed against him, crying in harsh, jagged sobs that hurt to hear. Behind them, the church door opened. Reverend Holt stood there, face lined with shame. "I heard," he said quietly. "I'm sorry, child. People are afraid. Fear makes them cruel." "Fear?" Luke's voice was hard. "Or cowardice?" Holt flinched. "Sometimes they're the same thing." That evening, back at the ranch, Clara was silent. She fed Thomas, cleaned the cabin, stared into the fire. Luke let her be. Grief needed space. But at bedtime, she stopped at his chair. "Luke, do you ever wish you'd just let us freeze that first night?" His heart cracked. "Never, not once. Even though it's costing you everything? Especially because of that." He pulled her close. "Clara, listen. I spent 12 years alone in this cabin, building things for nobody, keeping a ranch running for no reason except I didn't know what else to do. Then you came, and suddenly everything had a purpose again. But the town, let the town talk. They'll be talking long after we're gone. Question is, do we let their words define us, or do we define ourselves? She thought about that. Define ourselves? Then that's what we do, she hugged him, quick and fierce. Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for not giving up on me, he said. 3 days later, someone knocked on Jake's forge door. Hesitant, nervous, Jake opened it. Young man stood there, mid-20s, clerk's clothes, face pale. Luke was there, going over the plan for the anvil blessing. He recognized the man immediately. Pritchard's assistant from the land office. Jake's hand moved toward his hammer. What do you want? To help. The young man's voice shook. My name is Samuel Pritchard. I'm his son. The forge went silent, just the hiss of banked coals. Luke stood slowly. You're Pritchard's son. Yes, and I know what he's doing. The forgeries, the deed amendments, all of it. Samuel pulled papers from inside his coat, hands trembling. These are practice sheets, signature practice. My father's handwriting, copying other people's names, including yours, Mr. Calloway. Jake took the papers, held them to the lamp, page after page. Lucas Calloway, written 50 times, different pressures, different angles, perfect forgery practice. Where did you get these? Luke's voice was careful. His office, locked drawer. I've had the key for months. Been too afraid to use it. Samuel sank onto a stool. I left home at 19, couldn't stand what he was becoming. Came back last year, thought maybe I could change him, but he's worse, so much worse. Why help us now? Jake asked. Because I have a daughter, Emily. She's 3. Samuel's voice cracked. And I keep thinking, what if someone like my father came for her? What if she needed help and everyone looked away because they were afraid? He met Luke's eyes. You didn't look away. You stood up, even though it's costing you everything. Luke studied him, looking for deception, seeing only exhaustion and shame. Your father will disown you, Luke said. He already did, when I was 19, when I refused to help him forge homestead documents. Samuel's laugh was bitter. I came back hoping family meant something to him. It doesn't. Money's his only god. Jake set the practice sheets on the anvil. This changes everything. With insider testimony, there's more. Samuel pulled out another paper, smaller, yellowed. The gold watch, the one he's wearing. I saw him take it from James Morrison's belongings the day after the death. Claimed it was collateral for a debt, but there was no debt. He just wanted it. He handed the paper to Luke. Pawn ticket, dated April 1882, one gold pocket watch engraved EMW, pawned by James Morrison for $20, redeemed same day. Luke's hands shook. Morrison pawned his own watch? For $20, emergency cash for something, I don't know what, but he redeemed it same day. The pawnbroker remembered because Morrison was so relieved to get it back. Said his wife had given it to him. He'd never forgive himself if he lost it. Then how did Pritchard get it? Went to the pawnbroker after Morrison died. Bought the redemption ticket from the broker's records. Claimed he had the watch. Just needed documentation of ownership. Samuel's voice was hollow. The broker believed him. Why wouldn't he? Pritchard's a land agent. Respected. Trusted. Luke stared at the ticket. Physical proof. Paper trail. Evidence that Pritchard had lied about everything. Why are you doing this, Forays? He asked again. Really? Samuel looked at him. Because I'm tired of being my father's son, and because my daughter will ask me someday what kind of man I was. I want to tell her I stood up, even if it was late, even if it cost me. Jake gripped Samuel's shoulder. You're doing the right thing. Doesn't feel right. Feels like betrayal. Sometimes they're the same thing, Luke said quietly. Sometimes you have to betray evil to honor good. Samuel nodded, couldn't speak. Can you get more? Jake asked. Anything else from his office? There's a ledger, hidden, records of every forgery he's done for the past 5 years. Property transfers, loan documents, guardianship papers. He keeps it as insurance, I think, leverage against anyone who might expose him. Can you get it? I can try, but he's been suspicious lately. Locks everything, changes the hiding places. Luke thought fast. The anvil blessing is in 12 days. Can you get it before then? Maybe, if he leaves the office unattended. If I can find where he moved it. Try, Luke said. But Samuel, if it's too dangerous, don't. We've got enough to cast out. Your testimony alone is worth more than any ledger. Samuel stood. I'll do what I can. He paused at the door. Mr. Calloway, those children, are they safe with you? Safer than they've ever been? Good. He pulled his hat low. My father's planning something. I don't know what, but he's been meeting with men from Denver, rough types, professional types. His voice dropped. Be careful. He doesn't lose gracefully. Then he was gone, swallowed by darkness. Jake and Luke looked at each other. We have a weapon now, Jake said. We have a target on our backs, Luke corrected. If Pritchard finds out his sons betrayed him, he'll come for all of us. Outside, rain started, soft at first, then harder. The sound of March dying, April coming, the month when everything would end, one way or another. April 1st. Reverend Holt called a town meeting. The church was packed, 60 people crammed into pews meant for 40. Breath fogged in cold air, smell of wet wool and nervous sweat. Pritchard wasn't there, wasn't invited. This was for the town to decide. Reverend stood at the pulpit. We're here to discuss the anvil blessing, an old tradition, sacred oath-taking before the community. Mr. Calloway and Mr. Pritchard will each swear their truth. We witness, God judges. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Henry Bosch stood, face red, voice loud. What if Pritchard refuses? Then what? Then we know, Jake said from the back. Refusal is its own answer. Another voice, Margaret, the gossip. And what if he agrees, swears his truth, and we're wrong? We just humiliated a man who holds half our mortgages. Fear. Luke could smell it, thick as smoke. Ed Granger stood. I have a family, 3 children. Can't risk my land for someone else's fight. He sat down hard. 5 more families stood, filed out. The church door banged shut behind them. Luke watched them go. The room felt colder, emptier. Susan spoke up, voice shaking. My husband owes Pritchard $800. If we support this, if we're wrong, she couldn't finish, just shook her head and left. More followed. 10 people, 15. The pews emptied like water draining. Finally, only 20 remained. Maybe less. Luke stood. I understand. You've got families, obligations. I'm not asking you to risk everything. Yes, you are. Ed Granger had stopped at the door, turned back. You're asking us to choose between what's safe and what's right, and that's the hardest choice there is. He left. Silence settled like dust. Then Esther rose. I'll testify. I sold him the ink. I'll say so in front of everyone, even if I stand alone. Her voice shook, but she stood. Jake stood. I'll officiate. I know the ritual. I know what to look for. Reverend Holt stood. I'll bear witness. This is God's work, even if it costs me the church. One by one, others rose. A widow Luke barely knew, a young couple, a rancher from 10 miles out, Miguel Santos, who'd worked for James Morrison. Not many. 10, maybe 12, but standing. Luke's throat tightened. Thank you. After the meeting, Esther found him outside. Cold rain falling, mud everywhere. We're outnumbered, she said. Always have been. Luke, those people who left, they're not cowards. They're just trying to survive. I know. And he did. Couldn't blame them. Survival was honest work. Esther pulled a small bottle from her coat, the cologne sample. We'll need this. April 10th, dawn. She pressed it into his hand. This is how we prove it. The scent on those papers, his cologne, physical evidence. Plant number 4 reinforced. Luke pocketed it. What if it's not enough? Then we go down fighting. She squeezed his arm. But we go down together. The rain picked up. Turned the street to soup. Luke watched the church empty, people hurrying home, heads down, avoiding his eyes. The town had split, and most of it had split away from him. 9 days till the anvil blessing, 14 days till foreclosure, and he'd just lost half his witnesses. Next morning, Luke walked into the land office. Noon, Main Street busy enough for witnesses. Pritchard sat at his desk, didn't look up. Mr. Calloway, come to beg? Come to invite you? Luke set a paper on the desk. Formal invitation written in Reverend Holt's careful hand. April 10th, dawn, Jake Redmond's forge, anvil blessing ceremony. Pritchard read it, slow smile spreading. A frontier ritual. How quaint. You afraid? Of what? Superstition? He leaned back, chair creaking. I have legal documents, Mr. Calloway, notarized signatures, a judge who will rule in my favor when he arrives. He tapped the paper. This is theater. Then it should be easy. Luke's voice was steel. Swear in front of the town. Prove your papers are real. Clear your name. Pritchard's eyes narrowed, calculating. And when I do? When I swear truth and the community sees you're the liar, what then? Then I accept the consequences. You'll lose everything, your ranch, your reputation. Those children. He stood, walked to the window. Gold watch chain glinted in pale light. Is that what you want? I want the truth. The truth? Pritchard laughed. The truth is that you're a lonely old man who took in stray children because you couldn't save your own family. The truth is that you're desperate, and desperation makes you dangerous. Luke's fists clenched. April 10th, dawn. You coming? Pritchard turned, studied him. Long moment of silence. You're gambling everything on folklore, he said finally. That's not courage, that's desperation. Call it whatever you want. You coming or not? Pritchard's jaw tightened. Pride, ego. Luke could see it working behind his eyes. Refusing would look weak, admitting fear, and Pritchard couldn't afford weakness. I'll be there. His voice dropped to ice. And when I swear my oath and the town believes me, you'll be ruined. Publicly, permanently. Those children will be mine again. Your ranch will be the bank's, and you'll have nothing but the memory of this moment, when you handed me everything on a silver platter. Luke held his gaze. April 10th, dawn. Don't be late. He walked out. Behind him, he heard it, the soft clink of a flask being opened. Pritchard drinking, liquid courage for a man who was starting to doubt. Outside, the street was mud and melting snow, patches of bare ground showing through, spring fighting winter, neither winning yet. Miguel Santos was across the street, caught Luke's eye, nodded once. More witnesses than Luke had thought. People watching, listening, waiting to see which way the wind would blow. He mounted his horse, rode home through cold rain. Clara was on the porch holding Thomas. She'd been waiting, watching the road. Did he agree? She asked. He did. Will it work? Luke dismounted, took Thomas from her arms. The baby grabbed his beard, laughed. I don't know, Luke admitted, but it's our only chance. That night, sitting by the fire, Clara asked, What happens if we lose? Thomas was asleep. The cabin was warm, safe, for now. Then we figure out what comes next, Luke said. Together? Together. She moved closer, leaned against his shoulder. I'm scared. Me too. But you're still doing it. Because scared and still is better than scared and quit. She thought about that. Mama used to say that. When Papa died. When she got sick. Scared and still, Clara. That's how we survive. Luke wrapped his arm around her. Small girl, heavy burden, fierce heart. Outside, the rain turned to sleet, tapping on the roof like fingernails, like time running out. 9 days. The anvil would be heated. The community would gather. And truth, or something like it, would be spoken. Whether anyone would believe, it was another question entirely. April 10th. Dawn came cold and clear. Jake's forge was already roaring, flames licking at the anvil, heating it white hot. The air shimmered with heat, smell of coal and possibility. Smoke rose black against pale sky. Luke arrived first, Clara beside him holding Thomas. She'd insisted. I'm part of this, she'd said. He couldn't argue. Witnesses arrived in 2s and 3s. Esther, face set like flint. Reverend Holt, Bible under his arm. Miguel Santos, the young couple from the church meeting. The widow, then more. People Luke didn't expect. Ed Granger, who'd walked out of the church. Margaret and Susan, the gossips. Henry Bosch. They stood at the edges, uncertain, but present. 15 became 20. 20 became 30. More than Luke had dared hope. The anvil glowed orange-white. Jake tested it with a water drop, hissed, evaporated instantly. Ready. We gather under old law, Jake announced, voice carrying across the yard. Fire and iron, witness and truth, no lawyers. No papers, just conscience before community. Hoofbeats, multiple horses. Pritchard arrived, flanked by 2 hired men. He dismounted, surveyed the crowd, face showing nothing. But his hand kept touching the watch chain, nervous habit. Theatrical, he muttered. Sacred, Reverend corrected. Jake positioned himself at the anvil. The accused stands here. He gestured to Pritchard's side. The accuser here. Luke stepped forward. We begin with the accuser. Jake's voice was iron. Mr. Calloway, place your hand near the anvil, not touching but close enough to feel its heat, and swear your claim. Luke approached the forge. Heat hit him like a wall, immediate, fierce. He extended his right hand 3 inches from glowing metal. Skin prickled, sweat beaded on his forehead. I swear before God in this community. His voice was steady. Raymond Pritchard forged documents claiming guardianship of Clara and Thomas Whitmore. I swear he forged an amendment to my property deed, making me liable for a debt I never incurred. I swear he stole a gold watch from their deceased father and claimed it as his own. I swear these things are true. His hand didn't waver. The heat was enormous. 10 seconds, 15, 20. Finally, Jake nodded. Step back. Luke lowered his hand, red but unburned, his heart hammered. Now the accused. Jake looked at Pritchard. Same oath. Swear your truth. Pritchard stepped to the anvil, confidence like armor. But Luke saw the cracks, the way his eyes flicked to the crowd, counting allies, counting enemies. He extended his hand toward the heat. I swear, he began. Wait. Esther stepped forward. She held the receipt. Before you swear, Mr. Pritchard, explain this. January 10th, you purchased archival-grade forgery ink from a traveling merchant, expensive, unusual, the kind that makes new documents look old. She held it up. The crowd leaned in. Calloway's deed amendment is dated January 15th. The guardianship papers, same date. 5 days after you bought specialty ink designed for document forgery. Pritchard's hand trembled near the anvil. I buy supplies for the office. That proves nothing. Then explain this. Esther pulled out the small glass bottle, uncorked it. The smell of cedar and musk filled the forge. Plant number 4 paid off. Your cologne, custom blend, the same scent on the forged documents. She passed the guardianship papers through the crowd. Smell for yourselves. People leaned in, sniffed, nodded. The scent was unmistakable. Whispers rippled through witnesses. Pritchard's face reddened. Circumstantial. This proves nothing. Then explain these. Jake unfolded Samuel's evidence. Signature practice sheets, page after page, Lucas Calloway, written 50 times in Pritchard's hand. Different angles, different pressures, perfect forgery practice. Gasps from the crowd. Where did you? Pritchard spun. His eyes found someone at the edge of the crowd. Samuel Pritchard stepped forward, hood falling back. I found them, Father. His voice broke. In your office, locked drawer. I've watched you forge signatures for 3 years. I've stayed silent because I was afraid, because you're my father. Tears streaked his face. But I can't anymore. Not when children are at stake. Pritchard staggered back. His hand jerked away from the anvil's heat. You. He couldn't speak. Betrayal and rage warring on his face. There's more. Samuel held up a yellowed paper. This is a pawn ticket from April 1882. James Morrison pawned his gold watch for $20. Emergency cash, but he redeemed it same day. The pawnbroker remembered. Morrison was desperate to get it back, said his wife had given it to him. Plant number 1 paid off. Samuel's voice strengthened. 2 weeks after Morrison died, you visited that pawnbroker, bought the redemption documentation, claimed you had the watch, just needed proof of ownership. The broker believed you. Why wouldn't he? You're a land agent. Respected. The crowd pressed closer, hostile now. That watch you're wearing, Samuel pointed. The one you claimed you found in Morrison's belongings as guardian. You stole it. From a dead man, and you've been wearing it for a year. Pritchard's face went from red to white. This is conspiracy. Then prove us wrong, Jake's voice cut through. Place your hand near the anvil. Swear your oath. Tell us the papers are real. Tell us you didn't forge anything. Tell us that watch was legitimately yours. Pritchard looked at the glowing anvil, at the crowd, at his son's tears. His hand shook. He started, stopped. The documents are legal. County clerk signed them. Witnesses you paid, Miguel Santos called out. I worked for Morrison. He never borrowed money from you. Never. He paid cash for everything. Had a policy. No debt, no masters. He's lying. Am I? Miguel pushed forward. I kept the books for 6 months before he died. Every transaction, every penny. There's no record of any loan. Not to you. Not to anyone. Pritchard backed away from the anvil. You can't. This isn't legal testimony. This is mob justice. It's community witness, Reverend Holt said. And right now, the community wants answers. Clara's voice cut through, small but clear. That watch has Mama's initials inside. EMW, Elizabeth Marie Whitmore. She gave it to Papa on their wedding day. He never took it off, not ever. Every eye turned to Pritchard, to the watch chain at his vest. "Open it," Jake said. "Show us the inside. Prove it's not engraved." Pritchard clutched the watch. "I don't have to prove anything to you people." "Then you refuse the oath." Jake's voice was final. "You refuse to swear. You refuse to show the watch. You refuse to explain the ink, the practice sheets, your son's testimony, the pawn ticket." The crowd murmured, angry, closing in. Pritchard looked around, surrounded, trapped. His hired men had backed away, not willing to fight 30 citizens over a boss's lies, and something in him broke. "I did it." The words ripped out, desperate. "I forged the papers, both sets, Morrison's guardianship, Calloway's deed, all of it." Silence. Absolute. "I needed the money, gambling debts, bad investments in Denver. I was drowning." His voice rose, frantic. "Morrison's estate was supposed to be easy. Orphans, no family, just sell the land and pay my debts. But the girl survived. Wouldn't die, kept protecting the baby." His breath came in gasps. "So I had to get rid of them legally. And then Calloway interfered. So I tied him into it, forged him as co-debtor, make it impossible for him to fight without losing everything. He sank to his knees in the mud. I just needed the money. That's all. Just needed to survive." The crowd was frozen. Jake's face was stone. "The anvil has heard," Jake said quietly. "The community has witnessed." Clara stepped forward, small girl in oversized coat. She reached for the watch chain. Pritchard didn't resist. Hands shaking, he unclasped it, handed it over. Clara opened the watch. Inside, engraved in delicate script, EMW, Forever Yours, 1875. She closed it, held it against her heart. "This was Mama's gift to Papa. It's all I have left of them." She looked at Luke. "Can we keep it? To remember?" "Yes, daughter." His voice was rough. "We can." Marshal Reeves stepped from the crowd. He'd been there all along, watching, listening. He pulled iron shackles from his belt. "Raymond Pritchard, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, theft, and conspiracy to defraud." The shackles clicked shut. Pritchard didn't fight. He was empty, hollow. As they led him away, he looked back at Samuel. "You destroyed me. Your own father." Samuel's face was wet with tears. "No, Father, you destroyed yourself. I just stopped letting you destroy others." The crowd parted. Pritchard was led to a waiting wagon. Iron bars, lock and key. He'd owned this town yesterday. Today, he was cargo. Judge Morrison rode up, gray-bearded, sharp-eyed. "I heard there was trouble. Came early." He dismounted. "I've listened to everything. Witnessed by 30 citizens. Confession given freely before God and community." He looked at Pritchard. "You'll stand trial in territorial court, but based on what I've heard, your conviction is certain." He turned to Luke. "Your deed amendment is void, property restored, and your petition for legal guardianship of Clara and Thomas Whitmore, granted, effective immediately." Luke's knees nearly buckled. Clara grabbed his hand, squeezed so hard it hurt. "Thank you, Your Honor." Morrison's face softened. "The anvil blessing may not be law, Mr. Calloway, but it revealed truth, and truth is the foundation of justice." He nodded to Jake. "Your grandfather would be proud." As they led Pritchard away, Samuel watched his father go. Luke approached him. "You did the right thing." "I destroyed my family." "No, you saved your soul, and ours. That's a son's duty, stopping a father from becoming a monster." Samuel nodded, couldn't speak. The crowd began to disperse, but not before, one by one, they stopped. Shook Luke's hand, nodded to Clara, acknowledged what they'd witnessed, even Ed Granger. "I'm sorry I doubted." "You came," Luke said. "That's what matters." As the sun rose higher, burning off the morning cold, Clara looked up at Luke. "Is it over? Really over?" "It's over." She started crying, not sad tears, relief tears, the kind that wash away months of fear. Luke held her, held Thomas, and for the first time in 12 years he didn't feel alone. April 15th. The day foreclosure was supposed to happen. Instead, spring. The creek ice broke that morning with sounds like rifle shots, sharp, echoing across the valley. Water flowed again, clear and cold and alive. Luke stood at the bank with Clara and Thomas, listening to winter die. "Papa," Clara said, The words still new, still precious. The ice is singing. Luke listened, the crack and rush of water finding its path again. That's the sound of winter ending. And us beginning. She adjusted Thomas on her hip. He was walking now, barely, wobbling steps that ended in her arms, behind them hammering. The community was rebuilding Luke's south fence, the one sabotaged back in February. Jake was there, anvil hammer ringing. Esther brought food, bread, stew, pies. Reverend Holt led a work song. 20 people, maybe more. Even Ed Granger making amends with labor. Samuel Pritchard worked alongside them, quiet, steady, trying to repair what his father had broken. Mercy the cow had calved last week. Healthy calf, strong legs. Clara named him Hope. Because that's what we have now, she'd explained. That evening, they gathered around Luke's table. First of many Sunday dinners. Esther's venison stew, Jake's sourdough, Reverend's blessing. To family, Esther said, raising her cup. Blood or chosen, doesn't matter which. To truth, Jake added. And the courage to speak it. To second chances, Samuel whispered. Clara looked at Luke. He nodded. To home, she said. And the people who fight for it. They drank. Outside, the first wildflowers pushed through mud. Purple lupine, yellow balsam root, stubborn as hope itself. After everyone left, Luke sat on the porch. Clara came out, wrapped in Martha's old shawl. What are you thinking about? She asked. Your parents? How proud they'd be of you. She was quiet a moment. Do you think they mind? That I call you Papa now? Luke looked at the stars, sharp and bright in the cold spring air. I think they sent you to me, your mama and my Martha. I think they worked something out up there. Maybe our family was always supposed to be bigger than we thought. I like that. She leaned against him. Luke, will you teach me to read? Real reading, not just numbers. Of course. And when I'm grown, will you let me run the ranch? Not sell it, keep it, pass it to Thomas someday. His throat tightened. You want to stay, even after everything? Especially after everything. Her voice was fierce. This is home. These people stood up for us. I want to be the kind of person who stands up for others, like you did. Like we all did, he corrected. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that comes after surviving something terrible together. Thomas crawled out, grabbed Luke's boot, looked up with Morrison's blue eyes. Pa, he said clearly, up. Luke picked him up. The baby laughed, reached for the stars. Clara watched them. We're going to be okay, aren't we? We're going to be better than okay, Luke said. We're going to be family. Late April. The world turned green. Luke took Clara to the hilltop where Martha and his son were buried. 2 simple markers, weathered by 12 winters. He'd added 2 more, for James and Elizabeth Morrison. Clara had asked for that, wanted her parents close. I want you to know your first parents, Luke told her. They loved you, protected you as long as they could, and they'd be proud of who you're becoming. Clara knelt, placed wildflowers on each grave, purple and yellow against gray stone. Do you talk to them? She asked. Your first family? Sometimes. When the wind's right, I swear I hear Martha's voice. He smiled. She'd like you. You remind me of her. That same stubborn courage. What does she say when you hear her? Luke thought about it. She says, see, Luke? Broken hearts hold more love. I didn't understand for a long time. Thought a broken heart was just empty, useless. But it's not. No, it's where you fit, you and Thomas, not to replace what I lost, but to prove that broken things can still hold something precious. Clara stood, brushed dirt from her dress. Will you tell me about them? Your first family? I will, and I'll tell you about yours, every story I can find, so you'll always know where you came from. And where we're going? Forward, he said, together. They walked back down the hill. Thomas wobbled between them, holding both their hands, each step uncertain but supported. At the ranch, the rebuilt fence stood strong. New wood, tight wire. Jake had carved a small marker for the gate. Callaway Ranch, Essistelm 1860, restored 1883. That night, Clara drew a picture. The 3 of them, Luke, Clara, Thomas, standing in front of the cabin. She added Martha and James Morrison behind them, watching over. For remembering, she said, handing it to Luke. He tucked it into the Bible, next to the original deed, the real one. Outside, Twilight settled. The creek sang its new song. Somewhere, a meadowlark called, bright and piercing and full of promise. Luke stood in the doorway, watching his children play, Clara teaching Thomas to clap in rhythm, their laughter filling spaces that had been silent for so long. He thought about Pritchard, locked in a cell in Cheyenne, awaiting trial, awaiting judgment. And he felt nothing, no anger, no triumph, just relief. The man had tried to destroy them, had failed, and now was paying the price. That was justice. This, his children laughing, his ranch restored, his community gathered around him. This was grace. Clara looked up. "Papa, come play with us." He stepped inside, closed the door on winter, on loneliness, on 12 years of surviving instead of living, and joined his family, his chosen, fought for, nearly lost but found again, family. Spring had come, and it was finally warm enough to believe in tomorrow. I'm an old man now. Clara's got grandchildren, 3 of them wild and loud and perfect. Thomas runs this ranch better than I ever did. Got a good head for cattle and a better heart for people. That winter of 1883 taught me something I'd forgotten after Martha died. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who you'd bleed for, who you'd risk everything to keep safe, who you'd stand in front of a heated anvil for and swear truth, even when the whole world's watching. Pritchard died in prison, 5 years into his sentence. I didn't go to the funeral, but Samuel did, buried his father with more grace than the man deserved. Samuel's daughter, Emily, is 16 now, smart as a whip, wants to be a lawyer, says she's going to defend people who can't defend themselves. Her grandfather's legacy, turned inside out. The anvil still sits in Jake's forge. He's gone now, 10 years past, but his grandson keeps the tradition. Every few years, someone needs truth spoken. They heat the iron. The community gathers. And truth rises like creek water in spring, inevitable, unstoppable. Clara kept her father's watch. Wears it on a chain around her neck, even now at 52. Says it reminds her where she came from and where she chose to stay. If you're carrying weight tonight, grief, failure, a wrong you can't undo, listen. That weight can become a foundation. Build something on it. Don't let it bury you. And if someone's depending on you, stand. Even when the law's against you, even when the town turns, even when you've got nothing but a receipt for ink and a little girl's word, stand. Because dignity matters, truth matters, and family, blood or chosen, matters most of all. Spring always comes. Ice always breaks. You just have to hold on long enough to hear it sing. This is Lucas Calloway, and that's how I became a father twice.